You know ChatGPT and Mid-Journey, where you do prompts in plain English and get amazing results. Now the first AI-based RPA tool is here. Forget creating selectors. Just mention what button or field you want to interact with, and this software makes the rest. So cool. The RPA tool is Aura Digital Workforce and will be this year's hype. Let me show you how it works. To install Aura, you navigate to cognilo.com. Then you click Our Products, Aura Digital Workforce, download Community, and here you will fill in your personal information and click Create Account. Then the installation files of Aura Digital Workforce will download. Once finished, you navigate to your File Explorer and go to Downloads. Here it is. Right-click and choose to extract all. I'll just extract to this folder, so I'll click Extract. Go into the folder. Here you can see that we have an Aura Digital Worker and an Aura Desktop Assistant. We need to install both. The digital worker is the one that executes the robot, and the desktop assistant is where we create our automation. Let's start by the digital worker, so I double click that. That will open up the installation, and here you will just click Install and click Next a few times. Click Finish. Now you will run the Aura Desktop Assistant, so you double click on that as well. Again, we will just agree, click Install. If it asks you to install programs, say yes, and you might also have to activate it with your key. That will be in your email. Here we go, I can click Finish. Let me close down this browser, and I can also close down the folder. So here we have it. We have the digital worker and the desktop assistant. First, I double click the digital worker. That will open up Aura Digital Worker, and then I will double click the Aura Desktop Assistant. And here it is. Let me maximize it. You can see that we are online up here and we are ready to build our first flow. This is our Desktop Assistant. I'll take you through the most used features, and then you're ready to build your own workflows. Let's start by organizing the workflows that we'll be creating. So I'll be creating a folder for the workflows. You can see over here to the left in workflows that we already have a workflow automations main folder and then an example subfolder. Let's create another subfolder. We can do it in two ways. You can either go up here to this drop down, click it, and then say new folder, or we can go down here, right click, new folder. Here we can give it a name. We will call it our first workflows, and we will click add, and you can see that we have a folder here. It's empty right now, but we will fill a workflow in it. So again, I can just make sure this is marked. I can right click, new workflow, and we will call our first workflow application work, and then we'll click add. Now over here to the right, you can see the main. This is where our code blocks goes. And when I say code, don't worry, Aura will do all the work for us. Let's start by opening up an application. I go up here to add command. Then I can expand the open application. Choose to open a software application just by clicking it once. And the parameters over here to the right opens. We need to give a full path of an application, and we'll do it by writing it here. We will be opening up the Windows calculator, and there's a shortcut for that. We can just say calc.exe. If you're using other programs, you might have to fill in the full path. For now, this is good. Then I can click add, and you can see that Aura automatically added a delay. That is to make sure that the actual application will load properly. Since this is a very stable application, let's just skip that by deleting it. That's it. That's your first Aura robot. What you can do is to go down here to start the robot, and in a few seconds, there you go, we have now seen that our robot works. We'll also want to click buttons in this application. Let me move it over here. And don't worry, this might seem very, very simple, but it perfectly mimics a much more advanced application. It's the same principles that we will apply. So if you learn to automate this calculator, you can automate any application with Aura. Let's start by clicking a button. Say we want to click number 2. Then I just go over here to my code. I'll say add command. Now we want to move into the mouse category. So expand that, click a button here, and now the clever things comes. We don't need to create a selector that you're used to from other RPA applications. Let me bring up the application. I just need to bring up the label of the button that I want to click. And right now it's simply just label 2. That is the button I want to click. Then I can click add. Over here you can see that we now have a click to button. There's also useful tips that you can choose to show, or you can choose to not have Aura showing these tips. I prefer them, especially in the beginning, because it's very valuable and you will learn the best practices around Aura. So we will keep it. Now let's try to run it again, and before I do so, let me just close this calculator so we don't confuse ourselves. We will obviously also build in a close application in our code, but one step at a time. I click start now, and now you will see that we open up this application and we click number 2. That's it. Aura uses computer vision to automatically recognize that this label up here, number 2, that is the label of the button, and it clicks for us. Very, very nice. Let's do a few more things that demonstrate how nice this tool is. So I go up here. Then I want to say, I also want to click another button. I say add command. I'll say mouse, click a button, and now I need to click this logarithmic, that is LOG. So I just write in LOG and I can click add. There you go, we have now added another step. Before we run it, let's add a few steps more. I'll go with a message box, so I'll say add command. Then I scroll a little bit down to notifications, expand that, show message box. A message box is a message to the user that pops up on the screen. It will pause until the user clicks OK. So over here, I'll just say this is our first AI-based robot like this, and I'll click add. Let's also close down the application that we're working with. So I'll go up here to add command. Then I go down to Windows and browser, expand it, close and exit current application, click that. We don't need to pull any parameters in here because it knows that this is the current application that we want to close. So here I'll click add. Let's try that. So if I open up my application again, close it, then we'll click start. And you will see that we open up the actual calculator. We click 2, we click log, and we have the message box. This is our first AI-based robot. If I click OK here, we are completing the actual workflow and exiting the application. Wasn't that easy? Let's add a few more steps, and now we don't have the application open. So I can go down to my Windows Start menu, just search for calc, for calculator, click it to open it. And that is because we want to talk about what we want to automate. Here I want to click this drop down called trigonometry, click that and say I want to click the sinus, S-I-N. So what we want to do here is to go back to our workflow. I can also ignore some of these steps, and that is done by having 2 forward slashes. Now this exit is not active. It will just be a comment. And when I want to activate it, I can just delete it here and it will be active again. Let's deactivate it for now, not because we don't need it, but it will be a little bit more easy since we now don't have to opening up the application for each one of these runs. So after the show message box, I want to click the trigonometry drop down. And what I will do here is that I'll go up to add command and go down to mouse, say click a combo box, and then I just need to give the label of the combo box, that is also a drop down, that I want to click. So it's called trigonometry. So here I just say trigonometry like this, and then I click add. I also want to say when I clicked that, I want to click a button called sin. So I can go over here, I can add another command, I can say mouse, click a button, and here I will simply just say sin. I'll say add. That's it. That is my workflow. So let me just go up here. What is happening here is that we click some buttons. We have a message box pausing the workflows. Then we click a drop down, we click a button more, and then we have a disabled exit. So I can, let me just close this again. So now we have a fresh one. Let's try to run it. So here I'll just say start. And now the magic begins and here we clicked 2 and we took the log of that. I can click OK. Our automation continues. This is, of course, not an example that you want to build realistically, but it shows the power of Aura. We can do literally everything with Aura, and it's so easy. I don't need to know any code. That's it. That's how easy that was. Let me close down this application. I can go up here to workflow automations again, and we are ready to create the next workflow, which is PDF processing. Doing PDF processing is straightforward in Aura. I can go down here to this example folder. This is, by the way, a very nice folder in Aura. It shows you a lot of examples, so you don't need to figure them out yourself. Then you can easily customize it. Go down to PDF, pick the get values from PDF using extraction, and let me just disable this. So this is the code that we need to extract from PDF, and in fact we only need one step. Let me show you. So let us go through this code. Let's try to run it and maybe try to customize it. First thing happening is that we define a variable. A variable is with a $sign in front of it. Then we have a variable name, and this is completely free for you to choose. Here it's called PDF, and that equals a new employee form.pdf. And here we are looking in there, you can actually see it up here, documents, digital workforce, or desktop assistant, resources. Let me show you where you find it. So I'll open up a file explorer like this. Then I go to my documents folder, go into the digital workforce or desktop assistant, resources. And here you can see that we're using the new employee form. Let's open to expect it. So this is a PDF, a sample PDF, where we can extract data from. Let's try to do so. And let me just close this, minimize this. So what is happening is that we are now extracting from PDF, and that is the path up here. You could also give the full path here instead of the variable, but best practice is to use variables for things that can change, such as file path. Then we're showing a message box, and this is just a message that's telling you to click the inspector button to view the data extracted. Then we have a pause. This is like a breakpoint in your workflow. Now we are saying show message box, employee email is, and then we have a variable called $_email. I'll show you what that means in 30 seconds. I will leave the final path For now, we will get back to it once we have covered all of this up here. In fact, it's very simple. So if you try to click start again, and literally the key thing here, that is the line called extract from $PDF. Then we use OCR to do intelligent document processing with Aura. And yes, that's all we need. And here we have our message box that corresponds to this line up here. When I click OK, I can see our workflow is paused. I can click close here. So right now, nothing has happened until we click resume here. But what I want to do is to go over here to the right. And in case you are any other place like here, just click variables up here. Here are the variables that is getting created in this flow. If I scroll a little bit down here, so I scroll down all the way down to $PDF, this is the variable that got created up here. But we also have a lot of variables that got created in the flow. And yes, that is from the extract from this PDF. So for example, here we can see that we're using the $_email. And if I scroll up here, $_email, you can see that for this document, it's Bob Smith at test.com. And this will be showed in our message box in line 9 when we click resume. We could get a lot of other data out. Here you can see I can get the $_first Bob, $_last Smith. I can get dates. I can get literally everything out of this PDF. That's how easy it is to operate Aura. And in case you didn't notice, the variables that we created, they just say $ and then the name, and the automatically created in the flow, it says $_. So when I click resume in a little while, it will say employee email is, and then the value of the email, which was bob.smith at test.com. Then let me cover what's happening down here. Here it says click the inspector button to view the data manually specified. And here you can see that we get a value called start date from start date. And we have the parameter on called nearest right. What we will do here is that we are extracting to the right of start date. And let me show you the document once more. So here we have the start date, and to the right of that it's called 2020 0101. That is another date. So here we can extract to the right of this start date. And let me minimize this. And finally, we are displaying it and we have a pause. So let me try to click resume here. That's it. We have the email. We can click the inspector button to view the data manually specified. Those ones are over here. So I can click OK. There you go. We have the start date, which is 2020 0101. I can click OK. Workflow paused. We can click close. And since it's paused, we need to click resume. And that's it. That's how easy it is to use OCR to do intelligent document processing with Aura. Now let's do some web automation, another thing that Aura does well. So let me just go up here to workflow automations. I can even clean a little bit up so it looks more nice. Now we're going to solve the RPA challenge. Let me open up a browser and navigate to rpachallenge.com. This is the RPA challenge. The challenge here is that we need to fill in data in these fields, for example, phone number and rolling company, and we need to do it over and over with some Excel data. The challenge is that once I click submit here, these fields, they jump around, you can see it here, and this mimic an unstable web application. Usually with other RPA tools, we need to solve that in selector building, but with Aura, this is really, really simple. Let's start by simpling, just by entering in some data, and then we will solve the complete case by downloading the Excel sheet and use the data from Excel. So go up here and grab this URL, https://rpachallenge.com. Then we go back to Aura Desktop Assistant. In our first workflows, click there, right click, say new workflow. Here you will say browser work RPA challenge like this, and I'll say add. First, we want to navigate to the RPA challenge. So I go up to add command. I'll say open application, open a website, and over here to the right in the parameters, I need a URL. Here, I'll just say Control V, that will paste in what's already in my clipboard, which was the URL to the RPA challenge. I can choose a lot of other things. For example, I can choose to have the window as default, that is my last opening, or I can choose to maximize it. I want to choose to maximize it, and that is just because we can easily see what's going on in this video. I could also switch between Chrome and Edge. I find that using the default or Chrome, that is most efficient, but you can also use Edge. Let's just say add here, and that's it. You can see that we're navigating to rpachallenge.com and we're maximizing this window. So right now I click start down here. This will execute my rpachallenge.com. That's it. We have now navigated to the site with the robot. And keep in mind that we have now opened up a Google Chrome that is default in Aura, but where we were before, that was Edge. So let me just minimize this again. Let's start by filling in a first name. We can see that the label to this field is called first name, and that is all we need to specify in Aura. So let me close down this Google Chrome again, like this, and go back to Aura. So I jump to a new line. I go up here to add command. I'll say keyboard, enter text into a text box. Here I want to give the label of that text box, and we just saw that was first name, and then I want to put in a value. Here I'll just say Anders, but you could of course use your own name. Then I'll click add. Again, we can try to run Aura, so I click start down here. That will opening up this web page, and we will fill in the first name, which was Anders. That's it. Let's also fill in last name up here. So let me close down this, and I go down here. I'll say add command, keyboard, enter text into a text box, and here I'll say last name, and we will give it the value Jensen. I'll click add. So this one will fill in the first name and last name. Let me try to click start once more. That will start or opening up the website, maximizing it, and filling in the first name and the last name. That's it. Let us go back to Aura Desktop. So this is our script. Instead of clicking this add command each time, I can drag it into the canvas by going over here to commands. You can see that these are the same categories as from up here in the add command. Here I can say keyboard, enter text into a text box. I can drag it in here, and here you can say, see it says enter value as first name. This first name is just sample, it's not related to the RPA challenge. These are just saying that you want a value to a label. This is much faster to do it over here from to the left than up here. You can specify the parameters automatically. It was a little bit more convenient looking here, but this method is much faster. So here I need to change this value. Now I want a company name, and that could be my company name, which is called Anders Jensen org. And then I want to give it the label of that input field. I go back to RPA challenge, and that was company name. You can see it up here. So here I just simply write company name. So that's it. Aura again use computer vision to navigate to these fields and populate them. It's so nice. You need to close this one here again. I can click start, and what we've done here is simply just filling in the first name, last name, and then the company name. Here Anders Jensen org. That's it. Let's fill in the rest, and I think we will just do it all by one, and we can do it here with these commands. So here I'll just drag in 4 more. Like this. I can also copy this text and paste it. And that's actually also the beauty of Aura. You can write these lines yourself. I like this clean, convenient look. I don't have a lot of boxes like other RPA tools. I just have these lines of code. Let's have the role in company. That will be RPA teacher. And the label of that field in the RPA challenge, you can go check yourself. That is role in company. Then we want the address. And again, I'll just say 116 CPH. That is not my address, by the way. But, and that was address. Then we need the email and the actual phone number. So here I can put in my email. You're more than welcome to send me an email. If you have any feedback, I'll also be glad if you gave feedback below in the YouTube comments of this video. That will help me a lot. Thank you. So here I'll say email. Down here I'll put in a phone number like this. And we will say phone number, and I'll just check here in the RPA challenge. That is the label of this field. So we're giving the label of the input fields so that we can populate them. Again, I can close this and let's just start by testing it. It's very, very straightforward to use Aura. Just give the labels of the things that you want to interact with, and then you can just give the values. So here we say Anders Jensen, company name, role in company, address. Then we are having the email, and we are having the phone number. What we want to do now is to click a button, because to start the challenge, we need to click this start. That's it. You can see it starts here. I can, that is round 1. Whenever I click submit, we go to the next round. Of course, I can, right now I'm not filling in everything, so we will have 0% correct. This is the challenge itself. When we need to complete these 10 screens, and we need to do it with this Excel data. Again, one step at a time, we're using it to learn Aura and see how straightforward it is. So what I want to do here is that, let me just refresh the site, go up here. And that is to click this start button. And maybe you didn't see it, but let me refresh it again. So right now we're here. Look what's happening to these fields. Once we click start, you can see that these changes around. Let me just do it again. I click start. These ones moves for the first time. We need to take that into consideration in our Aura solution, because Aura detects all the UI elements of a site once it loads. So we need to say load again once we have clicked start. Don't worry, straightforward. So what I want to do now is to click start, and then I want to refresh these UI elements just once because they moved a little bit around. So let me close this one down here again. So before all these enters, and that will be up here, I want to click start. Here I can say add command. I will use this because this is the first time we click a button, but you can find it over here in mouse. So I'll say add command. I'll say mouse, click a button, and then I just need to say what it does says in the button. It says start. I'll click add. So now we're clicking the start button. And I told you that once this site loads, Aura gets all the UI elements through computer vision. And that means that when we refresh it here by clicking start, these ones will not work. I can even show it to you and also see what we do to troubleshoot, because it's, again, quite easy. We clicked start, that one worked. And you can see here that these ones are not filled in correct. Some of them are filled in correct and some of them are not. This is definitely not what we want, and that was expected. So what I need to do here, and that is go down here and have a space. Then we want to add a parameter called force detection. You can see it here. I can just double click here. That will autofill. What that is that Here I refresh the UI elements. I only need to do it here because then we refresh and all of these will be refreshed too. Try to run your automation once more. That's it. Here we click start. I now fill in first name, last name, company name, role in company, address, email, and phone number in the correct fields. Let me close it once more. You can also use variables in Aura. We saw it briefly in one of the previous lessons, and variables got a $ prefix in Aura. So if I go up here to line 1, click enter, then I want to say I want to have a variable for this HTTP, and that is just looks like this. Then I want to give this variable a name, and here I'll say RPA challenge like this. Then I can say equal to, and since I'm lazy, just going to copy this, Control C, and it looks like this. So what's happening here is that we are assigning a variable called RPA challenge. We give it this value and then we can use it in our flow. So instead of having it down here, I will delete it and then I'll use the RPA challenge variable. You can see it here. I can double click again and now we're using it. We haven't changed anything at all. We are just using this variable. And again, we can test it. So I can click start here. And there you go, we can see that it works. Now it will fill in the data from before. That's not really what we want to see. We know that this works. I can just click download Excel if I can focus the mouse. As you can see here, that's one of the things with RPA. We shouldn't move the mouse around. Now it's okay, but these RPA tools works in the UI. But here I click download Excel. That will download the Excel sheet to my computer. Now we will automate the Excel part of this exercise. Let me close it here. Let me open up a file explorer. Let me go to downloads and here we have the challenge. Let me also minimize this. I'll paste it out here to my desktop as it's more easy to find. I can also close this one here. So what this is, let me open it to inspect it. And that is, and I can also choose enable editing. That is, we have 7 rows. And yes, that is first name, last name, company name, role in company, address, email, and phone number. For each one of these rows, we want to fill it into the RPA challenge. And the challenge is, let me open it up here again in Edge, that when I click start, you saw that it changed and I can fill some things in here. I'll just do it in here. It changed for each one of these rounds. So for each one of our Excel rows, this input field changes a lot. This could be a CRM system, which were a little bit unstable. And let us just solve for that. So here we have this Excel book. I close it and I grab the path to this Excel book. So what I'll do here is that I'll say Shift, then I'll say right click. I go down to copy as path. Then I have the path to this Excel book in my clipboard. I go back to Aura. Again, in the beginning, I want to store this path into a variable. So I go up here, click enter, and then we will give it a name. I'll call mine Excel instance. Then I'll say equal to Control V. This will be the path of my Excel book. This is on the desktop, and actually that's also why I create a variable. It will not stay on my desktop when I move this robot in production. Imagine that this was a real robot, then it's quite convenient to use variables because these paths to documents can easily change. So our strategy now is, once we have navigated to the RPA challenge site, then we want to read this Excel instance and loop through each row and filling accordingly. So right after the start button, that will be here, I click enter. Go up to add command, find looping and iterating, expand it. And what you will do here is to click the for each loop. Here I want to loop the Excel instance. So what I'll do here is that I'll have a $. I will say Excel instance. And here I can see my column has headers. It definitely has. If your Excel sheet doesn't have headers, you can untick this. Then I want to say my worksheet, does that got a name? Here we only have one worksheet, but imagine you have more worksheet than one, then you want to specify the worksheet name. Here it was sheet 1. You can make it a good habit of always doing so, it doesn't really hurt. So I can click add. So now you can see that we added in a for each. Here it says for each, then the row, that will be the current row in the Excel instance. Inside these curly brackets, we will add our logic. And you can see that we have a parameter in this for each that we're working in the sheet 1 worksheet. What do we want to do? We want to fill in this data. Of course, not with Anders Jensen, but with Excel data. Let's start by cutting it. Go up here, take a new line, Control V, paste in my data. I can choose to tab it in, so I mark this and then I have a tab. It looks a little bit more clean. I can also choose to remove blank lines. I prefer these blank lines because it adds a little bit more readability to our code, but feel free to delete it wherever you want. For example, down here, like this. What I need now is to use the Excel data here instead of this. And I need to figure out how to refer to these Excel data. So I can go up here and then I can say pause. That will be a breakpoint. It will pause my Aura workflow when I click run. And that is convenient because then I can inspect what these Excel values can be referred to. Let me show you. I click start here. This will just start up the RPA challenge and then we will maximize it and we will pause the actual workflow. So now I clicked start, then I can go back to Aura. Here you can see that the workflow is paused. I can click close here. We're still paused, and let me just close this one as well. If you move over to variables, you can see that here we have the $_ first name John, $_ last name Smith, and so forth. That means that these variables from the Excel sheet can be referred to by $_ and their name. So the only thing I need to do is simply change these to Excel variables. And for the first name, I'll just need to go up here. Then I'll have a $. I'll have an underscore. Then I want to say first name, like this. And I want to do the exact same thing down here. So $_ last name. Then we have the company name here. $_ company name. Then we have the role in company, and you can find all of them again over here. So sorry, that was here. $_ role in company. Go down here and I'll say that is the address. And yes, if you misspell some of these, this will not work, but it will tell you and you can easily correct it. So here I'll say email, and then we just need the phone number. _ phone number, like this. Now we just need to say that here we activated the for each. We need to go back to the browser instance instead of the Excel instance here. And what we will do here is that up here, then we will say add command, Windows and browsers here, switch to use different application or context. And this is because we work right now in the Excel with the for each. We want to go back and fill things into our browser instance. Go up here, and now we want to work in the RPA challenge like this. I'll click add. So now we jump back to the RPA challenge. Let me just delete this blank line. We can also delete this breakpoint. We don't need it anymore. In the end of this for each, let us move back here. We also want to click the submit button. So I can do it here. And now let's just try to write it out, because we know how we can click. We just do it like we click the start button. So here I can just write click, quotation marks, and then I can say submit. It will also work if you don't capitalize them. I just like to write it just as it says in this button. So here I say click submit button like this. That's it. Let us also cancel the flow that we're in. Remember, we paused it just to inspect these variables. So here, just click cancel. And this is all the flow that we need. We can actually also delete line 18. This is all the code we need to solve the RPA challenge with Aura. And we haven't used selector work at all. We just refer to it by phone number, email, address, the labels of these input fields. Let us close this Chrome again and click start to run it. Here I will fast forward until this solution has ended. Here we go. We completed the RPA challenge without having to work with selectors. We had a success rate of 100% and we completed it in 166 seconds. Great. Let's try to build on this solution. So if I close here and I go back here, and actually I want to open up the Excel book that we have. So this is the Excel book. Let's also say I want a new column where I can say each time one of these is processed, then I want to say success. So I can Control C to copy the format here, Control V, and let me just change this to status. Here, remember to click save to save the Excel book. And then we go back to Aura Desktop Assistant. So what I will do here is that once this is done, that is in the end of the for each, I want to switch back to the Excel instance and I want to update the current cell to success. And that is for each one of these rows. So I go up here to add command. I'll say Windows and browsers. I will say switch to use different application or context. And now I want to switch back to this Excel instance. So here I'll say Excel instance. I will say add. And now you can see that I added it here. Then I want to set a cell value, and let's go to the commands over here to do it. And here, let's go find the Excel, set a cell value and drag it in here. And I can do this. Here I can say set value A5 as my value. And what do I want to do? Here I want to say set the value of the status column, and that will be for the current row. I want to set that as success like this. Let's try to run it again and see that we can update the status column with success messages. Of course, these are just successes, but afterwards we will try to create some error handling as well, where we'll miss some data to mimic real life scenarios. I'll fast forward to this filling. That's it again, a little bit faster than before, but we knew that this worked. So let me close this, and now we want to inspect the Excel sheet. There you go. We can now update an Excel sheet. Let's also do some error handling. Let's say that we miss two of these first name. I can just go here, say delete, and also do that with Jesse. So for example, 47, feel free to delete the names that you want, but only in the first name. We could of course create an automation that did error handling for all of these columns, but for now, let's keep it simple. Let's also delete these status messages so we can see it works. Remember to go up and save your Excel book, and we move back to Aura Desktop Assistant. So I want to create a log message. Let's just create an empty variable here. So here I'll initialize that one here. I'll say log message equal to, and let's have 2 quotation marks. That will be blank here. Then inside each of these iterations, I want to ask, is the first name blank? Then I will not do these operations because we have a business error. That is, we have error in our data. So if I go down here after the switch and before the enter, you can see here now I don't make a space. I did it before to make it a little bit more easier to figure out what's going on, but then we created an extra empty line. What you want to do is that here I want to say I want to create something after the switch to and before this enter. So I just place my mouse here. I go up to add command. Then I want to find the conditions here and choose an if condition. The condition is that I want to look at the first name variable in our current row. And remember, we could refer to that by saying first name like this. Then I want to say if this is empty, and here I'll just say equals to quotation mark, that means that this is a blank value. And if asks a question, and this is my question, this can only be answered by true or false. That is, either this is true or it's false. So let me click enter. Now you see that we have added the if without a blank line. So that's the way to do it. So if this is true, then we know that the first name is blank and we don't want to do the iteration, but we want to add to a log message. So let me go down here, and here I want to update the log message. So I'll say log message. I can even double click it here. Equal to, and then I can have my own message. I'll just say failed, missing first name, like this. So now I have what's happening. If this is blank, then there will be this log message. Right now it will just continue to do all these operations. So we need to have an else, and that is if this is false, then we know that the first name is not empty and we can actually continue with these operations. So what you will do is to place your mouse here again before the enter first name. Then you go up to add command, scroll a little bit down to conditions, choose the else condition and choose add. Now, what will happen if this is not empty? Well, then we will have all of these here. And that is, we want all of this here. So the enter and the click. So Control X to cut it out. Go up here, Control V to paste it in. And yes, we can delete this line if you prefer. So now we're saying this will happen if it's empty. We will have a fail. Otherwise, we will start filling in here and we can actually have a log message that says success. So because we're lazy, I'll copy this one here, go into the end here, and here I'll have the log message. It says fail now. That's okay. We will just do like this. And what I want here is that now I don't want to set the value status that is in the Excel book to success, but I want to give it the value of the log message. I can double click here, and that is how you can do easy error handling in Aura. Of course, yes, our flow got a little bit longer, but look how easy it is. And here we start up a website, we iterate through an Excel sheet. We do browser work with selectors that will usually take a lot of space, and we finally save it to Excel and do error handling in just 30 lines. But let's test it to see that this also works. So here I will click start. I will fast forward so that we don't have to see these 10 fillings. That's it. And here you can see that we stopped in round 9. That was of course because we skipped 2 rounds, so we only have 8. Let me minimize this. And here we ran it successfully. But what we want to see here is that our challenge got updated. There you go. We have now done successfully error handling. We have these 2 fails, and that is right because we missed the first name. Now you want to learn more Aura. Check this complete rundown with the product team from Aura. And Aura is also sponsoring the largest RPA community. See here how you can join for free. There's also a guide on how to get started.